The order for the day, first item is to approve our agenda for the day.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Citizens to be heard. Anybody that would like to be heard on an item that is not on the agenda? Seeing none. Approval of payment of bills and vouchers.
So move.
Second.
Motion and second to pay the bills. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Approval of minutes from December 27th, 2018.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes, December 27th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then we would like to recognize a donation of $200 from Baker Downer Westminster Presbyterian Church to the Clay County Sheriff's Office. Thank you for that. And let's see, the next item is request to fill vacancies for one chief assistant county attorney and assistant county attorneys. Pam Voss. Good morning, Pam.
My request today is to fill, it's actually to fill two positions. One is the chief civil position that will be vacated on the end of next week. The other one is to fill the position that was vacated by Alex Stock in our office for a criminal position. I would note there is another criminal position open. Michael Kuna, who was on probation, didn't make it through probation. It's my understanding that's already an approved position, so I can fill that. Just as a little bit of background on where our situation is downstairs right now, we did have an open civil position that was vacated by Cheryl Dyson. I did extend an offer to an individual Friday. Yesterday she called and she accepted that position. She's going to start February 11th. Also, I am going to hire a roster attorney to work up to 19 hours a week, basically to help with our appeals that we have going and some court appearances until we get these positions filled. Heidi Davies has agreed to do that, so as soon as we can get her cleared on her background check, which shouldn't take long, she'll start working on those appeals for us and getting those done. As far as the civil position, that is on grade 25. The vacancy was the person leaving was at step 5. I'm asking for approval to advertise that up to step 5 or step 6 if they have the experience. We need experience, as you guys know, down in our office for a very young office. If we can get someone in there with a little bit of experience, it would be a great help to the office. And what I've found over the past few months of interviewing, the only thing holding us back is the pay. I mean, it's the grid. Our pay scale isn't up to scale with like Becker County, Otter Tail, or even Cass County. So I would like approval to, if they have the experience, to go up to a step 5 or step 6 in order to get someone qualified in there that can help us get rolling on the civil side. Right now, it's Katie Stock was just finished her probation period yesterday, and she's going to be the only person in the civil division for at least about a month. So if I can get approval to advertise up to that step 5 or 6, I would appreciate it. Obviously, if we don't get the applicants that would meet, that experience, we would go back down the scale to whatever's commandments or with their experience. But
Okay, what are the board's wishes?
I think we should make a motion to request or to fill the vacancies that she requests.
And also with the step.
With the step that's flexibility that
What
she
do you,
needs.
what do you think you're wanting there? I mean, if I can, I know your motion's there, but I want to second the motion. We gotta have some experience in that, and I agree with you that probably the market isn't going to get us that without going away from what we normally would authorize, steps 1 through 3, right? So I think we need to be somewhat flexible there to get the right person in there to give you that experience. So you said 5 or 6, or?
Yeah, what it was at was 5, so right now we're budgeted for 5. It would be a budget neutral move to fill that position at a step 5.
Okay. And even in your recent budget change that we went through, there was still some flexibility within that, if I recall correctly. If it's okay with...
So your motion, Jim, would be up to a step 6?
That's what she requested from us, yes.
Yeah, okay, and I agree with that, up to step 6. That'd be my second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
I do have one more request regarding the criminal assistant. Like I said, we have 2 openings, one that was vacated by Mr. Stock. He was at a step 4, I believe, or probably a step 5. I think he was at a step 5. Michael Kuna was obviously at a step 1. So to fill Mike Kuna's position that I already had permission for, I went back to a previous applicant we had from our last go around in September. She's a prosecutor down in Nebraska. She's got 6.5 years of experience. I extended an offer to her. She would like to accept, but she doesn't want to accept it as step 1. She wants to be, and rightfully so, I think, compensated for her experience. Now it is Nebraska experience, so I don't think she's got 6 years of experience. I would say if we could give her a step 5, which was where Mr. Stock was at, again, it wouldn't affect the budget, but we could get someone in with experience. I don't even know if that's going to be enough to get her up here, but I think that's what's reasonable for her position. So I would like to have permission to offer her a step 5 for that position. The one I'm going to fill and advertise for, that would be an entry level, so that would be step 1. So really the budget wouldn't change.
I'd move approval of going up to step 5, or criminal attorney.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Thanks
do have one
thanks for
question.
your good work, too. I know you've had some difficult months here to deal with all these problems, but you're doing a good job, so thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, one question for Pam. How many, when we're bringing these people on in step 5, is this going to affect, I don't know how many employees we still got down there. Are we putting these people ahead of the other people that are there, or?
Well, what we have is 3 attorneys that, well, actually, 2 attorneys that just got out of probation yesterday. So, yeah, they would be ahead of them, but they have more experience. The people that are at these, that just got out of probation came in entry level with little to no experience on, except for Ms. Stock. I guess we started her, I think, at a 3-2, so she'll move up to a 3. But the other individuals down there, the other one would be Tony Weigel. He came in with no experience. He just got out of probation. As for the other attorneys, she'd be right where they're at. I think they're all at 4 or 5 right now, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks.
Okay, next item on our agenda, departmental update, Soil and Water Conservation District. Kevin and team. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. I want to thank you for allowing us on your agenda. Typically, we should be doing this more often than coming in, and only time we see you is when we're asking for something. So, like I said, we wanted to thank you for allowing us on the agenda this morning. And I wanted to introduce a couple of our employees that most of you probably already know. Craig Halverson, he's been in our office for almost 28 years. But our newest employee, Gabe Foltz, been on for almost 3 years, and I'm just going to let each one of those guys tell you a little bit about some of the programs that they are in charge of, and kind of what our program for 2019 is kind of heading. So Craig, I'll let you go first.
Okay, the feedlot deal. Every 4 years, we have a re-registration, and I've been here every year or every 2 years to get the work plan signed or whatever. And I have a hunch that the feedlot is right now 105, but I think it's gonna go down. Just after the reporting, because when they came back, you could see people got out. So PCA's got this figured out, I don't know how, but yeah. And then I'll be back with the work plan and performance credit stuff for you guys to sign if you wish. And we also sell trees, plant trees. We put down matting. We only cost share on field windbreaks now. We have 26 varieties of trees, and 2 of them are potted evergreens, I should say. On an average, we sell 15,000 bare root trees a year. Their average $1.85, and the pots are like 20 bucks. We put down 5 to 6 miles of matting the last few years. It used to be 20.
Felt like it, yeah.
That's a lot of matting. You cut every tree out and pull it. The district also rents out 2 John Deere no-till drills, and they average between 1,000 and 1,500 acres a year, which they can plant, soybeans, wheat, alfalfa, cover crops. So it's a good deal. And the Crestwood area down there, which was, we took the trees out that need to be removed, and they're piled up and they're scheduled something to happen here. The ground has been tilled up several times, and we may spray it one more time this spring before we plant it to native grasses and pollinator habitat, perennial flowers. That's mine.
Okay, Gabe?
All right, so,
Just a minute,
Okay.
excuse me. On your feedlot program, do you find a lot of problems with that, or?
No. Just the only problem we have is the reporting part, or how you enter it into, they have a program called Tempo. They think it's an advancement. We went so far backwards with that, it's unbelievable.
Sounds like the DMV.
Well, it's built by the same company. I mean, just to put in one producer of changing like this, it's, what is it, over like 70 clicks?
70 clicks.
I'm not knocking down our DMV, I'm knocking down the programming out of the state of Minnesota is what I'm.
Yep,
No, I just,
it's sad.
No.
They just complicated it.
I got a question for you. You reported 105 feedlots in the county now
Yes?
this year. Was that down from, wasn't it like 160 a year ago?
Oh, no.
Was it?
We've been stuck on 105 for, I'm gonna say the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay, for some reason I had a different number in my mind. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I don't think we've ever been that high.
Okay, so it's running the same pretty much?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Craig, are you still getting, we kind of tried to average so many a year to?
Yep.
your-
I
for
think we've gone
compliance
through
or-
them all now.
Okay.
One time, the first time.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, how many a year do?
We need to do 8,
8, okay, okay,
7%
Yeah.
of that total.
yeah. And that's is that to maintain our funding that we get from?
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's,
PCA?
that,
Okay.
yeah, 7%.
Well, you've done a great job with that. Kevin, back when, before we had you guys out there, there was a lot of turmoil going on in the feedlot industry and complaints, and I haven't, since we've done this, I have not had one call regarding feedlot issues, so, and before that, it was,
Torches and pitchforks?
yeah, well, yeah,
And that's the way we
Yeah.
want it. We want it that.
pretty
we
much
handle
white
it.
coats, hoods.
Like I said, that's the way we want it. We want it to be handled in-house if we can. We don't want it to get to you guys, and I don't think you want it either. But I think Greg does a very good job working with the landowners, and there are definitely good ways to work with landowners and ways not so well to work with them. But I guess meeting them and, walking through the process, it's all part of the game. But that's the way we want to keep it.
Good job, Craig.
Thanks.
Gabe?
yeah, so I guess my 2 main duties, are working with the buffer law and then also the county ag inspector position. So just a little update on where we're at with the buffer law. Along public water courses, which is the rivers, streams, and wetlands, we're about 98% compliant. And we've had communication with every single landowner. And with this fall that we had, a lot of landowners weren't able to get those buffers planted just with harvesting crops and stuff in the snow and into December. So a lot of those will be put in the spring. Public drainage ditches, so the Buffalo Red Watershed District took on the enforcement for all of their drainage ditches. And they're gonna be purchasing easements along those to establish the buffer. The Wild Rice Watershed District did not choose to enforce, so the county took on the enforcement role for that. Right now, it's about 78% compliant along those drainage ditches, and we've had communication with almost all of those landowners, so we're making progress there. And it's kind of the same situation with the fall that we had. A lot of guys weren't able to get those buffers planted. Currently, we're working on an agreement between the SWCD and the county. We had a meeting last Thursday. Frank was there and Steve was there to discuss the agreement, just to basically lay out the duties of the soil and water and the county as far as the buffer law goes and buffer enforcement. So I think we're making some progress with that, and we'd like to have that, I guess, in place before spring begins, so just to have something in writing. And so basically what the SWCD is in charge of is the technical assistance, and then the county is the enforcement. And then we've also kind of put together this flow chart. So we have to do compliance checks, so we'll be checking a third of the county every year. And then, so if the landowner's out of compliance, we'll be following kind of this side, just a step-by-step process to follow. And if they're in compliance, then we'd be following the other side. So I think it's just follows the buffer ordinance that was approved. And then I guess with the county ag inspector position, we've had that since 2012, I believe. Last year was kind of an odd deal, I guess. We had the opportunity to apply for a grant through the Department of Ag. So we ended up receiving $10,000 from the MDA just for wild parsnip control. And we use those funds to spray wild parsnip on county and township roads. And then we also use it for education for the township officials. And we had a field meeting out there to help them identify certain weed species. And then this year, again, we'll be receiving $5,000 from the MDA just for additional noxious weed control. So, yeah, I guess that's about it as far as what I do. So,
Thanks, Steve.
A couple things that are kind of new to us this year. The Minnesota Department of Transportation came to us and wants us to participate with them with this snow fence project. And if you notice around the county, there's a couple sites west of Glendon. There's a structural fence just on the west edge of town there. And then as you come closer to Dilworth and Moorhead, there's been some corn rows left out in farmers' fields. There is a program that MnDOT has for paying landowners a rental rate for leaving those rows to basically kind of collect snow drifting from across the roads. And if you notice those last week's paper, I guess the Fargo Forum had an article in there about how full those snow fences already are. So if you looked out there, they have helped keep some of that snow off of our main thoroughfares. So we have a meeting this morning at 10 o'clock that MnDOT is coming over. I've invited Dave Overbo and his staff to come over because they'd like to target some county roads as well. So besides state and the federal highways, we're going to be looking at county roads that have maybe some problems with snow drifting and that type of thing. And we're looking at either some structural, like I say, the snow fence, the actual fence itself, possibly paying landowners rental rates on leaving some crop, corn, that type of thing. Also, there's a program to allow them to plant some trees for wind breaks. A little more upkeep, maintenance with the trees, but there's 3 different avenues they're looking at pursuing, working through us to try to get contact with landowners and get some interest out there. And one other thing I guess we'd like to bring to your attention, the agricultural best management program has a low-interest loan program for landowners, for farmers, rural landowners, and ag businesses. And what we've done since 1996, we've got $1.6 million of funds that we have loaned out. And it doesn't come through us, it's actually a loan through the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. Funds come through them, and then we have a local lender, some local banks that participate. And what we found over the years is our tillage equipment or septic system upgrades, some of those things that qualify for this program, we've been seeing some septic systems that are falling through the cracks, and it's primarily because maybe the landowners that are applying for these funds, the credit checks that they've been going through haven't been flying with the banks. So I had a meeting with the Nancy Gunderson's regional assessors group this past December. And I just asked them if there's any, there's 30 counties in the state of Minnesota that participate by you having the county acting as the lender. And none of them are, that were at Nancy's group are participating, but it's something we'd like to take maybe pursue with the county. I've talked with Bruce Jaster here, I've talked with Nancy, and I think Lori Johnson also. Potentially there's a way to use the county and make payments with these loans through special assessments. So some of these landowners that have these septic systems that are failing, they're either a pollution problem, they're surfacing on the landscape out there, and a septic system not working is not fun. So if there's some way that maybe we can work with you guys to accept, be the lender for this certain entity, this septic systems and our new wells that also would qualify. And it would be something that we could work with the Lori and Nancy to see if there's some way to put those on the tax rolls. Something we'd like to maybe pursue. Minnesota Department of Agriculture is willing to come up, give a little presentation to see how this does work. And like I say, there are 30 counties in the state right now that are presently using the counties as through the special assessment project. So anyway, something down the road. I know we got our time is done, but I guess we really want to thank you for the continued support of our program. And like I said, we should be doing this a little more often than, the only time you see us is when we're asking for something. So we just wanted to let you know what we got planned for this year, and thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Come back anytime.
I got a quick one. That one weed that, I don't even know how to pronounce it, farm.
Palmer Amaranth.
Thank you. Do that 3 times real fast. Do we have a lot of that in Clay County, or?
We don't have any of that right now. It looks really similar to water hemp, which is pretty well established, and you see it a lot in soybean fields. But right now we don't have any Palmer amaranth, and that's kind of the reason that the MDA has started offering this grant, is because Palmer amaranth moved into the state.
Just to keep it away,
yeah, to try to keep it down and keep it where it's at instead of spreading.
But you can't stop the birds from flying.
Yeah. And what about this memorandum of understanding we were talking about the meeting last Thursday?
Yep.
Are we gonna move on with that, or, I mean, is that gonna be presented, or when? We haven't signed that yet, have we, or?
No, that hasn't been signed yet. There was a couple additions that we were gonna include on that, and I guess just to have it reviewed a little bit before we
Okay.
have it signed.
Very good. I didn't know when we were gonna present that. Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions for these gentlemen?
Thank you for your.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Good work. Next item is a request to fill vacancy for juvenile counselor in the SECURE program. James O'Donnell. Morning, James.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Here today to request permission to refill a vacancy in the SECURE unit, sorry. Tyrell Willick, who's leaving us, he's going to become a probation officer in his hometown, so he did a real nice job for us, so wish him the best of luck moving forward.
Board's wishes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the request.
Along with backfill.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thanks, James.
Is our meeting 10:30 on Thursday?
Yep, 10:30 on Thursday.
Highway Department, Dave. And Eric. Morning.
Morning.
We've got 3 items this morning. First one being a very important issue is replacing one of our motor grader operators. It's currently up in the Uland district. We've got plenty of backfill right now with temporary employees, but you know, we need to get somebody up in there full-time. I'm anticipating probably, if we do get a recommendation, with some backfill, because I think there'll be some internal movement. Possibly an existing maintenance worker would apply for it, and then we'd have to actually advertise and backfill for that position.
Board's wishes on that request.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the request. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Item number 2 is to purchase a tandem axle truck off the Minnesota State bid. We did bring it to the Highway Committee. I think we discussed it on 2 different occasions. The funds would come on the Internal Service Fund, and I did meet with Lori to go over that a little bit, and we explained some of the things that we talked about as far as the dollars that are in the Internal Service Fund, and then how we would kind of utilize those in the future, allocating dollars that are set aside for the plow truck to kind of remain within the plow truck. So,
Was she all right with that?
Yep, everything is good there, and it's one nice thing about the price on these trucks now is now that the emissions they're no longer being more, you know, we've kind of reached the threshold on the Tier 4 emissions, so the prices are stabilizing. So I think the last 2 trucks we bought are in the same range. The price for the truck and then the plow equipment and the box and the hydraulics and all that is $220,795. There's 2 vendors. I-State Trucking provides the chassis, and then Towmaster does all the work on the box, hydraulics, and plow equipment. It's pretty much exact same. In fact, they came to us in the summertime, or I had heard that they were making a certain model called the Clay County build. So they actually model one type of truck after Clay County. That's because we had them do so many. But so I thought, well, they got a Clay County build coming. We might as well put our name on it, and started the process. So what essentially we'll do is we got 7 trucks that are in the hands of full-time operators, and then we've got 4 trucks that are reserved for the part-time variable hours snowplow operators. And when one of those 4 trucks are ready for replacement, one of those 7 goes down and the other one goes to the sale. So that's kind of how we talked about it. The one in Glendon we purchased in 2011 after the fire, and that's one that we actually got a couple of really good trade numbers from I-State as well. We got $9,000. I think your sheet might be off a little bit, but I got $9,000 as trade value for the 2001 Sterling, $4,000 for the 1999 Volvo. About 3 or 4 times higher than we thought we were going to get, so trade numbers were actually real good. So.
Okay,
We did address this in highway tracking, and we had quite a bit of discussion on it, and ultimately, our committee recommended approval of that purchase. I would move approval.
Second.
motion and a second to approve the request on the tandem axle truck. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Right, the last issue we have is Eric and I would like to request approval to attend the National County Engineer Conference. It's in Wichita, Kansas this year. It's in April. I guess I feel there's immense amount of benefit to the county going to these things. There's all kinds of federal and national level speakers at these. The networking is unbelievable, just to get a feel for county engineering and what's going on with legislative topics, innovative topics. I think I mentioned before that Eric primarily targets the technical, there's a lot of stuff on recycling. Last year they actually had a little seminar, breakout seminar on motor grader districts and how to best utilize your equipment in that area. So there's lots of vendors there. Our Polk County engineer is the current president of our association, so it would be nice as well to kind of see him finish his term there as National County Engineer President. There is money in the budget for it, and our travel plans are to drive, and we're going to share expenses with the Hubbard County engineer. So it should be save a little money there too.
Okay.
Move to approve the travel.
Second.
Motion second to approve the travel request. Any further discussion?
Yeah, again, this was brought up in our highway track, and the only thing, like every year, it seems this is always is in April, right?
Yeah.
The one stipulation, and I'm certainly not seeing it this year, but flooding becomes an issue, and if we were to end up having flooding issues, you'd be able to know a little bit ahead of time, and we may have to cancel that.
Yeah, and that happened.
Because if we end up having any type of flooding issues, we need you here.
Absolutely.
So, you know,
And that happened,
I just want to remind us that that's always a potential in this
You bet.
part of the country, so.
Yeah. And they're good about refunding. Like I said, that happened in '09, and they refunded all of our monies, so 100% on board with that.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thanks, gentlemen. Next item, recommendation.
Wait.
Oh, we have to wait?
I don't know the applicant, but I'll check with Steve, see if he's
It's
got
not
more
a
people.
hearing or anything, is it?
It's not a hearing, no. I mean, I'm okay with it.
I got it. Thank you.
We should be okay starting the next item, shouldn't we? Come on up, Haley, we'll get started.
Sorry.
Recommendation for approval of Bison Ridge Estates, second and third platted subdivision. Valley Graham, good morning.
Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. I will start with the Bison Ridge Estates second subdivision. Based on the information provided this morning, this application is coming to you for the final recommendation of the preliminary plat. If a recommendation is made for approval, then the drainage plan, the sewage treatment system plan, and the Buffalo Red River Watershed District Permit will be submitted, and the application will then be presented to the county board for the final plat approval and signatures. Based on the existing zoning district and proposed land use and subdivision, the application does meet the requirement of the development code. At the December 18th, 2018 Planning Commission meeting, approval was granted with the condition that the county engineer approve and sign the plat. Additionally, at the Planning Commission meeting, information was received from MetroCog relating to the Heartland Trail. The engineer for the applicant at that time did confirm that accommodations for the Heartland Trail have been made. The Holly Township has approved the conditional use permit and has given preliminary plat approval as well. If there are any questions or comments, I also do have imagery of the proposed subdivision plat, so you can see a larger version, as well as imagery showing how the plats would overlay onto our GIS map, so you can see that if you wish. We also have the applicant's engineer and legal counsel here if you have any questions, as well as the highway department if you have any questions for them.
Okay, questions for Haley?
Or if you would like to see the imagery.
Anybody
So
want to see that?
we're just approving the application for this today, is that what we're looking at?
Yes, it's like a final approval for the preliminary plat.
Okay.
Um,
Well, I was at the planning commission meeting, I heard all the pros and cons for it, and, you know, in favor of it, I'll motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Anybody else who would like to be heard on this issue? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. Thanks, Alan.
Yep.
Just got another one.
Yep. I also have the Bison Ridge third subdivision. And again, the same procedures would follow based on the information. If you recommend approval, it's for the preliminary plat. The same application requirements would apply for the drainage plan, sewage treatment plan, Buffalo Red River Watershed District Permit would all be submitted. Then finally, if this is approved, again, it meets the requirements of the development code. At the December 18th, 2018 Planning Commission meeting, approval was granted with the condition that lots 1 and 2 be modified to be compliant with the feedlot setback. That is 2,640 feet from any platted subdivision. Since that recommendation, a revised plat has been submitted to accommodate that request, and it's been approved and reviewed by Recorder's Office and myself as well. And then additionally, the engineer for the applicant had stated that the river will provide a barrier or delineation for any potential future expansion of the feedlot. So Holly Township again has given their preliminary plat approval for this. So if there are any questions, I can welcome those.
Any questions?
Again, I was at the meeting when this was discussed, and I just want to thank the people who want to develop down in that area. It's improvement to do this land that's just sitting there, so I'll make a motion to approve.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the request. Any further discussion, Kevin?
So are these subdivisions, are they all gonna have their own septic systems?
Correct.
Okay, and so they're gonna meet all of those regulations. And then I did see something in here regarding testing for availability of water.
Correct. And that report was confirmed that that would be available.
Okay. I asked those questions because the old area that I came from in Oakport at one time was kind of overdeveloped from the standpoint of both septic and water. And so it's very important that we follow and make sure that there's adequate room for septic systems and adequate water availability, or we just end up with major problems. Thank you, that answers my question.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Right.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Kelly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, committee reports. Kevin?
Oh, okay. Caught me off guard here. Let's see, last week, let's see, there we go. We did have on the 8th, after our board meeting, we did have the Highway Tracking Committee meeting, and the items that were discussed were the vehicle issues. We did discuss the remaining work to be done around the campus as a result of the construction projects, dealing with bituminous stuff that still needs to be done, and that's going to be coming to our jail construction meetings, I think, this Friday. We did talk some about the joint facilities for the salt sheds. They're getting old and are going to need to be something done in terms of replacement over a period of time. So we started that process in discussing that. And then the conference issue. And then we're starting the process on the township maintenance contract schedule. And so we're going to be looking at bringing those final numbers here, I think, according to this, by about the 19th of February. So the month of February, we will be reviewing all the numbers from last year. Dave has scheduled the meeting with the townships regarding that for the 14th of February?
21st.
Was it changed to the 21st? Okay.
I think it's going to be the 21st.
Okay. And then, so that must mean then, for us, it's going to be later than the 21st then, because we usually vote on it after that township meeting, so.
Yeah, we won't do it on the 19th yet, because that'd be before the meeting.
Yeah, so, okay, so the 26th then, okay. That's that. Then I did attend my first meeting as a board member for the Lakes Country Service Cooperative in Fergus Falls on Thursday the 10th. And boy, that's quite the organization, and I learned that they do an awful lot of different things. And I got my book on it, and so I'm still in the process of reviewing that. Very informative, and I'm looking forward to learning more and seeing how that can, how maybe Clay County can even utilize that service cooperative even more for the benefit of our, purchasing power or whatever else we have to do. Then, yesterday, we did have a executive committee meeting of the Diversion Authority at 11 o'clock yesterday morning to discuss several items and working on the schedule coming up for the next couple months. Then in the afternoon, starting at noon, we had a meeting with the Minnesota members of the Diversion Authority, talking about how we might form a group in Minnesota that would assist in the land acquisition process with the diversion properties in Minnesota. In other words, it would be a Minnesota entity that would allow our Minnesota property owners who feel they haven't been treated fairly in the process to come before this group and express their concern, and that's where the negotiation would take place with those property owners. I think it's going to turn out to be a good deal. And then last night, along with Commissioner Whalen and our county administrator, we attended the Buffalo Red River Watershed District meeting, and I'm going to withhold comments on that meeting for now. I did go to them and tell them that at our executive committee meeting of the Diversion Authority yesterday at noon, or at 11, they did authorize me to go before the watershed board and to let them know that at our Diversion Authority meeting on the 23rd, we intend to have on there to vote to submit for the watershed permit, and that hopefully that would be granted, or that would be authorized by the Diversion Authority, and that permit would be in the hands of the Buffalo Red River Watershed Board by the 28th of January. I did then offer, based on our 5-member group that's forming this, between the city of Morehead and Clay County that's forming this group, I did, based on our discussions, I did then make an offer to the watershed to have a member of the watershed be part of that group that would oversee the land acquisitions and concerns on the part of Clay County landowners and being treated fairly with their, so I extended that invitation. They obviously didn't, they didn't comment or act on that yet, but we shall see. And there were other developments that happened there that I have many questions on that I'm going to be asking for some clarification on some legal issues, and then we'll report back on that. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Frank?
Highway tracking meeting on Tuesday has already been covered during the meeting, and with Commissioner Campbell talking about it. Wednesday I went to the Wild Rice Watershed Board meeting. They had a group in there, one of the schools. They're doing the testing water quality, and they're working on the wild rice. Got a project of removing snags in the wild rice. It was an interesting project for these students to be taken on and clear up the wild rice with debris. Robert Cypress there and he gave a report, which he presented to us a month or so ago, or 2 months ago. Robert Sype was here telling us what the watershed group is about, and when it was started, why, and their focus points. So he covered that. I think that was pretty much it there on that one. Thursday, I went to the buffer meeting, which already, the group that was here from Soil and Water pretty well covered that too, so a lot of the stuff, the meetings that I went to. Friday, I went to an open house for the Lakes and Prairie. Was very well attended. And yesterday was at the governor was at the Junkyard Brewery. They attended that. I had to leave a little bit earlier, but those are my meetings.
Thank you. Commissioner Haynes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On Wednesday, we attempted to attend the Northwest Radio Board, but were unable to do so because of a hookup problem that we had. And so then on Thursday, I attended the Soil and Water Conservation District for Clay County meeting that the fellows were referencing here earlier, and that Frank was talking about just a moment ago. And the gist of the meeting was that the re-elected supervisors took the oath of office. The officers elected to keep the offices the same as 2018. Gabe Foltz reported on the noxious weed grant, which he spoke about earlier. The supervisors approved several items for the upcoming year. The discussion led by Gabe Foltz was regarding the buffer compliance issues, which we heard about earlier. And only had 4 respondents to the buffer meeting earlier that day, which was attended by Commissioner Gross and Steve Larson. The noxious weed list was unchanged since 2018. MnDOT will conduct a snow fence workshop at the SWCD office this in 45 minutes here. On Tree Week is coming up, February 11th to the 15th, and the open house with coffee and cookies and whatnot will be at the Soil and Water Conservation District on 30th Avenue South in Moorhead. A controlled burn is being considered next week for the Crestwood Pollinator Project south of Moorhead to burn off the weeds. And that is my report.
Thank you. Frank?
And one other item that when they were talking about buffers, as far as in the Buffalo Watershed Board, Gabe has got all that stuff. There's only 4 people left and those are all pretty much owners of land that are out of town, live out of the state or something like that. So he has really done a great job in getting being compliant and people being and stuff like that. So when it's
Mr.
just
Chair, that's over 4,000 parcels.
Yes, that's over 4,000 parcels. There's only 4 of them that he has to do yet, and very good work by Gabe.
Well, that's just a testament, I think, to the, soil and water and how well they're respected from the ag community. I think that really goes to show an awful lot there, that they go about things and do it right.
Okay, I had the same diversion meetings Commissioner Campbell did this week. We'll have, I'm sure, a lot more to say about the Buffalo Red meeting last night in the near future. Commissioner Campbell and I met with City Council Member Paulson about some diversion issues earlier in the week, and I had a meeting with Moorhead's new mayor during the week, and that went well. And I had a PIC committee meeting on the staffing issues with the county attorney's office, which we talked about earlier. That was it for me. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was a busy week. Again, much of what I participated has been discussed, the highway tracking. I attended or participated in multiple department head evaluations. We've talked a little bit about it in the past, but we're kind of in the process of rebooting the Strive for Excellence Committee. And we met this past week, and I appreciate Mark Sloan, Rhonda Porter, Kathy McKay, Dave Overbo, Darren and Hallie are all going to be members of our Strive, and kind of our focus that we determined is kind of going to be around recruitment and retention of our staff, and so give you guys reports from time to time. We're hoping to meet on a monthly basis. Our buffer attended the buffer agreement meeting. One of the other things that we talked about is the buffer ordinance. They're going to be looking to come, probably when they come back with our agreement of for compliance issues is addressing the exhibit. There's an exhibit that was presented with this ordinance, and it changes so often, rather than coming back and asking this board to change that exhibit, they're going to be looking to add the link into that, so they'll be coming to board with that just for that change. Participated in the PIC last Friday. Yesterday, I met for a period of time with James O'Donnell on a series of issues at the Juvenile Center. Participated in both of the diversion meetings that have been addressed. I did attend the One Minnesota inauguration celebration. I think it was interesting in far as the celebration, the governor made 3 stops. St. Paul, Mankato, which is his home area, and Moorhead. So I think that says a lot about Moorhead and Clay County. So in our brief conversation with him, he stressed the importance of local government and making sure that the resources are in your hands to make the best decisions for our county, and including hopefully the likelihood of increasing program aid. So, and then I also attended the Buffalo Red River Watershed District meeting. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Anything else? Steve, anything?
No, thanks.
We are adjourned.